So Apple just announced their new iPad lineup and is very impressive. So let's go ahead and get straight into it. But before we do, I just wanted to let you know that Apple decided to drop the prices on their 10th generation iPads to just $349. So let's go ahead and talk about the new iPad Air. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my notes. So if you see me looking down at it, I'm just referencing some of the numbers. So Apple really decided to surprise us this time because they now have two different sizes of the iPad Air. They have the 11-inch, which starts at $599, and the 13-inch that starts at $799. These iPads also have updated storage models where now it goes up to 1 terabyte. They now have a new liquid retina display that is now 30% more screen real estate on the 13-inch. So Apple decided to go ahead and change the front-facing camera from being at the top of the iPad to now being in the landscape side where it should have always been, and now you will always be centered whenever you're deciding to take your FaceTime calls or Zoom calls in your landscape mode. So these now run on the M2 chip, which Apple says is 50% faster than the M1 and 3 times faster than the A14 Bionic chip. These iPads also use fully recycled materials and come in a multitude of colors. They have the original Starlight and black, but they also introduced a new blue color and purple. But that's pretty much all they gave us about the iPad Airs. Let's go ahead and get into the iPad Pros. So now these come in the same sizes as the iPad Airs, the 11-inch, and instead of 12.9 for the bigger model, it is now also 13. The prices for those start at $999 for the 11-inch and $12.99 for the 13-inch. I'm not gonna lie, I was super shocked because these are super thin. The 11-inch is 4.3 millimeters thin, and somehow the 13-inch is 5.1 millimeters. Don't know how they made the bigger model thinner than the 11-inch model, but somehow they did that. Apple engineering at its best. That also makes these iPads the thinnest Apple product that has ever been made. It might even be the thinnest tablet ever made. So the 11-inch weighs less than a pound and the 13-inch weighs 1.5 pounds, which technically makes these lighter than the iPad Air. So the colors aren't new here. They still come in the silver and space black, and the chassis is made of recycled aluminum. And Apple says that these are going to be just as strong as previous models, but I guess we will see in the coming weeks if that actually holds true. Now, the displays on these iPads are actually kind of insane. Apple finally released OLED on an iPad model, and they are calling it tandem OLED. Basically what this is that they're stacking 2 OLED panels on top of each other to increase the brightness. So that way you won't have any of the issues that OLED panels usually have, which is brightness. And Apple says that the brightness of this will be 1,000 nits of full screen brightness and 1,600 nits of peak HDR brightness. Now, this monitor right here is OLED, and I can honestly say I will never go back to anything else. OLED is just a game changer, I promise you. If you haven't experienced it, when you do, you will not want anything else. Now, Apple is also offering a nano texture glass, which should help reduce glares, but it may cause a problem with the sharpness and the contrast of the actual screen itself. The biggest thing that Apple did was, instead of putting the M3s like they did in subsequent models before, they put the M4 chip. So they released a whole new chip and put it inside of an iPad, which is absolutely insane. So the M4 chip uses the 3nm process, which houses a new graphical engine that powers those OLED displays. The new CPU also has 4 performance cores and 6 efficiency cores, which Apple claims is 50% faster than M2 and 10 times faster than any of the original iPad Pros. It also includes a 10-core GPU, which introduces ray tracing to the iPad and offers 4 times faster rendering than the M2 iPads. Now, Apple compared the M4 chip to the latest chip in a really thin PC, which they didn't give us any specifications on what chip that was, but they say that the M4 can deliver the same performance while using just 1/4 of the power, which is absolutely insane to think about. The efficiency, ridiculous. Apple also talked about their neural engine, which is way better than its competitors with its 16-core design. Apple says that this design not only enhances efficiency, but also supports AI and machine learning tasks, which makes it more powerful than any neural processing unit in any AI PC to date. Apple also took measures to dissipate the heat by adding graphite sheets and putting copper inside of the Apple logo, and Apple says it gives them a 20% thermal performance improvement. These new iPad Pros also come with an updated camera. They now have a 12 megapixel camera that can shoot up to 4K, as well as shoot in ProRes. Now that's it for the iPad Pros, but that's not all that Apple announced today. They also made some major updates to their beloved accessories for the iPad. They also announced the new Magic Keyboard, which is now thinner and comes in 2 colors to match the iPad Pros, the silver and the space black. It also now includes a function row, which was a pain point from the original one because they could not change the volume or change the screen brightness, but now it also includes an escape key, which was a big thing that was missing from the first generation. It also has a larger trackpad, which now resembles and provides an experience like you're using a MacBook. And the last thing Apple talked about at this event is the new Apple Pencil, which Apple is now calling the Apple Pencil Pro. Now, nothing has changed as far as the design itself goes, but all of the internals are different. They added a hover feature, which allows you to preview where you're going to be making your next mark. They added a squeeze feature, which brings up different menus in different apps, which also provides haptic feedback. They also implemented a roll option. So if you had a angled brush, you could literally turn the Apple Pencil and it will change the orientation of a shaped pen or brush. It also includes Find My. So if you ever have an issue where you lost your Apple Pencil, you can use the Find My app and find it. Now this pencil also works with the iPad Air. So these new iPads are available for pre-order and are available on May 15th. Now the real question is, should you buy one of these or should you upgrade from a previous model? Now for me, despite being a huge Apple fan and owning an iPad Pro, I personally don't think that it is necessary. Yes, the iPads now have an OLED screen and has the M4 chip, which provides all of this processing power, but there are no apps on the iPad that uses all of the power that the iPad actually has. Also, the accessories are only compatible with the new generation. So the Magic Keyboard will only work on the iPad Pros, and the Apple Pencil Pro will only work on the iPad Pros and the new iPad Airs. With the price of the Pro models, you could get a 13-inch MacBook Air for $1099 or a 15-inch MacBook Air for $1299, and you will be getting a fully functioning laptop where you can actually use Pro apps to their fullest ability and make use of the actual M3 chip. And you won't have to pay an additional $300 to $350 for the accessories. I think the most value right now is the 13-inch iPad Air at $799. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and stay tuned for my long-term review of the M2 MacBook Pro that is going to be coming out next week. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Let me drink some water, but before I do, we're going to sync the audio. All right. Get some water before this. And it's empty. Great. Perfect. All right. Looking like I'm going with no water. Oh.